On October 27, 1979, Black Sabbath would fire Ozzy Osbourne. It was no surprise given how big of a mess the band was in the years leading up to it. 1 year prior, Black Sabbath were promoting their poorly received record Never Say Die, something they admitted themselves they were not proud of. The band was on a bit of a losing streak as 1976's technical Ecstasy was also poorly received. Ahead of the album sessions, Ozzy temporarily left the band to work on a solo career, and the band briefly hired a stand-in singer in Dave Walker, who they wrote some songs with. Several days before Ozzy was set to start recording his solo effort, he changed his mind and went back to Black Sabbath and made it clear he didn't want to work on any of the material they had written with Walker. Guitarist Tony Iommi would recall he wouldn't sing any of the stuff we'd written with the other guys, so it made it very difficult. We went into the studio with basically no songs. We'd write in the morning so we could rehearse and record at night. It was so difficult, like a conveyor belt, because you wouldn't get time to reflect on stuff. Is this right? Is this working properly? It was very difficult for me to come up with ideas and putting them together that quick, he'd say. The band's behavior at this time was heavily influenced by drugs, and the sessions dragged on and on. They would eventually wrap up work on the album, but it would be poorly received, and the band hit the road to support the record with an exciting new band named Van Halen opening for them. Van Halen would virtually blow Black Sabbath off the stage every night, with critics citing Black Sabbath's performance as being tired and uninspired. The tour was also fraught with problems as Ozzy became too unreliable. During a scheduled stop in Nashville, the Prince of Darkness was awake for 3 days on a drug binge, only to check into the wrong hotel ahead of the gig. When the band tried to wake him up for the gig, they couldn't find him, resulting in the concert being cancelled. The band organized a search party trying to find their singer in Nashville while he slept for 24 hours. Guitarist Tony Iommi would recall in his book the state of disrepair the band was in at the time, recalling, "We'd been together for a decade, but it got to the point where we couldn't relate to each other anymore. There were so many drugs flying around and there was so much booze and late nights and women and everything else. And then you get more paranoid and you think, they hate me. We never fought, but it's hard to get through to people, to communicate, and to solve things when everybody's out of it," he'd say. As the band started to work on their next album, they rented a house in Los Angeles, and ahead of the session starting, Ozzy disappeared for almost 6 weeks. He had no contact with the band, and they had no clue where he went. In the book Louder Than Hell, The Definitive Oral History of Metal, Iommi would recall, Ozzy was going to clubs and getting really out of it and not coming home. He got to the stage where nothing was happening with him. He came apart on us. We just couldn't continue with Ozzy. As much as everyone wanted us to, we just couldn't do it. Nothing was happening, and it would have meant the end of the band. We didn't want to fire him, but we had to if we wanted to continue. Iommi would go on to reveal that the band had to lie to their label Warner Brothers about the progress of their next album, while at the same time deciding that Ozzy needed to go and a new singer needed to be found. Then on April 27, 1979, Ozzy was fired from Black Sabbath. Ozzy would reveal his thoughts on the firing in his book I Am Ozzy, saying, "I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel betrayed by what happened with Black Sabbath. We were 4 blokes who'd grown up together a few streets apart. We were like family, like brothers. And firing me for being effed up was hypocritical BS. We were all effed up. If you're stoned and I'm stoned and you're telling me that I'm fired because I'm stoned, how can that be? Because I'm slightly more stoned than you are? We were doing some rehearsals in LA and I was loaded, but then I was loaded all the time. It was obvious that Bill Ward had been sent by the others because he wasn't exactly the firing type. I can't remember exactly what he said to me, but the gist of it was that Tony thought I was pissed, a loser, and a waste of time for everyone concerned, he'd say. But the firing at the end of the day seemed to work out for Ozzy, who went on to find guitarist Randy Rhoads and would have a huge career as a solo artist, while his ex-bandmates would recruit Ronnie James Dio, releasing Heaven and Hell, an album that many consider to be some of Black Sabbath's best work. Ozzy would end up reuniting with the band in 1985 for a Live Aid performance, and again in 1997, and they would finally release their long-awaited comeback album 13 in 2013. Ozzy stated in interviews that when the band continued with Ronnie James Dio, they should have called it Black Sabbath 2. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again in Rock World True Stories. Take care.